Good afternoon. Waiting. We'll give it a minute or two, max, before we start, allowing everybody to join us. We're definitely a very large group today. Lovely. Whilst we wait for everybody to come in, highly recommend you put on another screen your Claude app or browser access. That's what I did 2 weeks ago when Michael was talking about Notebook LM, and he was doing things and I was looking at it myself. So just a small tip from a participant because I surely am not an expert in Claude. I'm only learning. And Michael will make me learn more. Thank you.
It's the gift that keeps on giving.
Uh-huh. That's what HSMAI is all about.
You said it.
Okay, we're 1:30 already in attendance, so we'll give it one more minute. Super. Okay, I think it is very fair to start. We're already at 1:50, so whilst I do my small quick welcome to all of you, we will allow our other colleagues to join. So good afternoon, everyone. Absolutely lovely to see you all once again. The famous every Wednesday at 4 p.m. GST time catch up. As I said earlier, make sure you have your Claude app or browser open. And like me, I have my coffee next to me, so all set. What I First of all, it's amazing that we're still all here and we're standing tall and steady despite the craziness that we still live in. It will end up soon, and I hope sooner rather than later. But for now, we do what we can do. It is also absolutely fantastic to see Hassan. Somebody already have a question? No, I doubt it. It's also super fantastic to see this community growing. Since we started our webinars and catch-ups since March, we've only been growing every single session. And each one of you is bringing a colleague, a team member, a friend. So lovely to see you all. It's also today in specific is amazing because we have 50 unique hotel brands attending with us. So registration was slightly less than 300 for today. So far, our numbers of audience is still growing, but you come from 50 unique hotel brands. Can you imagine if we're all in one room, seeing each other or meeting in person? What power that brings. What is also super amazing is that today we're across all four commercial disciplines. So we have people from sales, marketing, revenue, and distribution. UAE, yes, you're the highest attendance of today. So if I talk numbers, you're 52% of who's attending with us today. But what is remarkable is the traction and the growth that we're seeing in Egypt. Keeping in mind that our Egypt community really only launched in January of this year. So for those of you attending with us from Egypt, and I see quite a few brands here and national chains, so welcome to you all. If you are already, if you're based in Egypt and you have not yet connected with our super ladies of Egypt, Kim and Anna, please, please, please do so immediately after today's session. We've been hosting monthly educational and networking activities since January, and May the 19th, so in 3 weeks' time, is an amazing big moment for us. We have a power up session. We have an executive roundtable to start with, but that's by invitation only. But followed by a power up session on revenue agility, even in uncertain times, followed by our monthly social of Egypt, which we call Tuesdays Together. So it's another TT. So Dubai calls it Thirsty Thursday, and in Egypt we call it Tuesdays Together. So it's still a TT. So this is a monthly social we've been running in Cairo for now on the second Tuesday of every month. And soon, I would say Q4 of this year, we will start to move around to Hurghada, to Sharm el-Sheikh, and other key cities in Egypt. So mark your agendas for the May 19. Please, please, please connect with Kim and Anna. They will welcome you with open arms, and we would love to see you engaged. Also today, I'm super happy to see the growth in our Saudi community. Your numbers are growing, so we want to grow the Saudi community. So do please share these events that you have now attended. Share it with your colleague, share it with your team, and let us grow the Saudi community. And hopefully soon we will have another chapter like we have now in Egypt. We will have a chapter in Saudi Arabia. Don't want the rest of our region to be upset. I absolutely love that we have people from Bahrain, from Qatar, from Kuwait, from Jordan. So big welcome to everyone as well. So that's me and all my welcomes to all of you. Puts a smile on my face. That's why we are here. But today we are delighted to welcome back Michael Goldridge, founder of the Vendor Advisor. Michael sits really at the very intersection of hospitality and innovation. And do look at his LinkedIn profile. You will see that he has really done both worlds. And he is definitely one of the most recognized voices in AI-driven personalization and digital strategy for our industry. To us, Michael also is a great supporter of our HSMAI activities in MIA, and he has attended with us in person for our in-person master classes during the annual conference in November, which, by the way, will still happen in November at the Conrad in Dubai. Stay tuned. We will soon share some more information. But he has also been supporting us during these virtual webinar series that we launched. Okay, we launched them because of the situation that we are living in, but I think the traction and the growth in audience just shows how connected we are as a community and how eager we are to either learn a new skill like today's session or upskill our knowledge like what we had last week with our F&B revenue management. Today's masterclass is about Claude. So 2 weeks ago, Michael covered Google Notebook LM. And today we deep dive into Claude and what it actually brings to the hospitality industry and why operators are now paying more attention to what Claude can support us with. And I absolutely have no doubt we will leave the session with a tip or two. I also have some news for you. When we were reviewing the content that Michael shared for today's session and what he wanted to cover, and keeping in mind how engaged you all have been over the past 8 weeks with so many questions that we hate them not being answered, we're breaking today's session into two. So today will be part one of the Claude webinar. And next week, Wednesday, 4 p.m. GST, we will continue with the rest of the topic. That it doesn't mean that if you don't attend both, you don't get the full message. No, but Claude as a AI tool really has a number of functionalities and capabilities that we thought it is much better to really spend more time on each so we walk away with real benefits. Before I leave the floor to Michael and I become his voice of God, some housekeeping notes. Today's session is a webinar again because of our extremely large number. We're almost reaching 200 in this room. So yes, it is a webinar, but both your audio and video can be switched on the moment you raise your hand. So please, if you want to ask a question in person, raise your hand and Jean will immediately bring you into the room to ask the question. Alternatively, if you just want to send in the Q&A, please do so. I will pick up that question. I'm the voice of God of Michael, and I will ask the question on your behalf. So, two ways to get engaged. This is not a one-way session. This is an engaged session as long as we all walk away with something that we have learned to apply as soon as we leave. So, with that said, I say thank you all once again. We're still having people joining us, but we will have to start. We will definitely finish on the dot by hopefully 5 o'clock, 5:05. Um, do not leave when Michael leaves because we always capture your feedback as well as pass on the registration immediately for next week's session. So, once again, thank you. Lovely to have you. And I switch my camera off. Michael, over to you.
All right, thank you, Mona. All right, I'm happy to be back here again. So as Mona shared, that this is going to be the first of two parts because Claude, there's a lot about Claude and there's a lot of questions about Claude. And I work in the United States with a lot of hotel groups that are coming to me because they're looking to transition from ChatGPT to Claude and trying to figure out what makes it so special, what makes it so different. And so, and there are a number of things that do. It has three components predominantly. There's chat, there's co-work, and there's code. I'm really going to only have time to cover chat today. And I know probably a lot of you have heard about Claude, have heard about code, and I'll talk a little bit about these, but these are, um, right now it's just to kind of give everyone a kind of, since we broke it up into two, break it up into two parts. So, what is Claude? So, Claude, the guys that started Claude actually started with OpenAI, and they left OpenAI because they didn't like how OpenAI, which is ChatGPT, was running it. They wanted to create a AI for good. That was essentially their initial concept. And so they call it like constitutional AI, where it was like doing good things. But that was the genesis of them. But in a nutshell, it is very, very similar in a lot of ways to ChatGPT and in terms of a lot of the capabilities. But I've been using Claude for about a year and a half, 2 years, because one of the reasons that I like it so much is for its writing. And it can do the writing, just like ChatGPT can do the writing, but for some reason, its writing feels so much more human. It feels so much better. And the other thing I liked about Claude versus at the time ChatGPT is that it could handle bigger PDFs and it was easier to clean up the content. But if we want to look and compare, because again, that's part of what we're all here about to learn about this thing. Writing quality, as I talked to you about, here's ChatGPT and Gemini. It's the closest to like real, like doesn't feel like AI slop. It can handle the large documents. Now, what it can't do, and one of the things we were talking about with Mona earlier is about images, and Gemini and ChatGPT can do it. Claude doesn't really do the images. And the web search, you actually have to put it on demand. It isn't, it's integrated, but it isn't like a key part of it. And then it's got the coding and then it connect to these other things. But really what makes it initially special is its ability to write very clearly. And then what you constantly hear about it now is all about its coding. So let's go into understand the costs of it, just because That's one of the things that it has different levels. So all of you can try it out, but it taps out pretty quickly just because of as you use it, it uses up tokens. So one of the things I'll be mentioning here and there about Claude is tokens. And you guys will probably even experience this when you've used the free version, all of a sudden it stops at a certain part. That's because of tokens. Everyone gets allocated a certain amount of tokens. And once you start to hit that limit, it either stops you or it starts to constrain you. But Claude has three pretty much parts. You've got the chat, which you can access by Claude AI or download it on desktop app. It has Cowork, which is sort of like chat, but chat is it's more reactive. So you type something in and it responds. With Cowork, it's chat, but what you do is you point it at a directory and you create a directory on your computer and you say, looking at this, do this. Looking at this directory, I want you to do this, this, and this. And it just does it and doesn't wait for you to kind of continue to prompt it along. And then there's the code, which is in terminal or is in desktop, where anybody, all of you can code something pretty magnificent. You're only limited by your imagination. But that's what makes it's called vibe coding. And the thing is, you just need to kind of understand some basic principles, and I think we'll cover that next week. All right, so let's start with chat. Here it is. Go to Claude AI, Claude AI. Different ways to access it. You can access it in the browser, you can access it in the desktop app, or you can download it on your phone. And when you open it up, here you go. All the little numbers. Everyone loves the numbers. So this is how it refers to you. Number one. Number two, you see that it looks just like ChatGPT, looks just like Gemini. They're all kind of the similar sort of structure here. Two, this is where you type all your stuff. That's the context window. Three, this is the model. You choose your model type. Four, this is how you choose the model, how it thinks. Five, you can talk to it. Six, this is where you can do extra stuff. You open this up and whatever extra you want to do to your prompt. If you're kind of like have like writer's block, you click write and it gives you ideas. You want to learn something, you click that. If it's connected to your Google Drive, you click that and it'll give you ideas of what to do. If it's connected to your calendar, you click that, it'll give you ideas of what to do. If it's connected to your mail, you click that and it'll tell you some ideas of what to do. All right. Incognito mode. Then over
I
here,
I
what's
have a
that?
question. I have a question.
Sure.
This connection to your Google Drive, is that safe and recommended, or you're better off because I don't want access to every single file? Is it recommended and safe, or
So,
should I do it by project?
so you give it access to directories. So the best practice is you give it access to its own directory. So I have a Claude directory and I put stuff in there for Claude to do. It won't leave the directory unless you give it permission to do that. So you put everything you want Claude to do, and you can kind of create subfolders for it. So that's the way to do it. The if you want it to read your entire drive, you can do that, and I'll show a little bit later. You can give it permission, so you can say read, but I don't want you to be able to write or delete anything. So that's and in terms of sort of security, again, it's a paid if you're using paid, it's they say that they don't share, and they're supposedly the good guys, so they're not sharing this out. So does that answer your question, Mona? Voice of God?
Yes, it does. Thank you. I actually didn't connect it to entire. I selected a certain folder. So yeah, I did it right.
Okay.
Thank you, Michael.
Sure thing. Then here, this collapses it. Number four is searches. Then here, new chat projects. We're going to talk about projects. We're going to talk about artifacts. We're going to talk about customization. If you have chats you like a lot, you pin it. This is your history. And then here's your settings where you learn all that stuff. Again, very similar to the other stuff we talked about. So let's talk a little bit about the models because they have three different models. They have Opus, and they just came out with 4.7. All these guys are racing like crazy. You have Opus, you have Sonnet, and you have Haiku. And it's important to think about this in terms of usage because as you start to use it more, like chat may not use a lot, but once you get into co-work and then get into code, it eats usage like crazy. The usage I'm using is tokens because you allot it a certain amount, so you want to be able to be smart about it. So Sonnet, this is like the everyday, this is like the workhorse of it. This is the one you pretty much use all the time for what you're thinking about. So this is the one that you want to use probably about 90% of the time. And it is a little more efficient, but it isn't the smartest. The smartest one is Opus, really, really smart. It is able to think, it's able to think through steps, it's able to reason, it's able to handle a lot of context, it's able to truly manipulate the documents. But if you're just doing like a web search or something like that, just stick it on Haiku. And so it doesn't use as much of your usage that you're allotted. So those are the things. Haiku is the least smart of it. Sonnet is the one that you should probably just keep on all the time. And if you have a really, really hard problem, stick on Opus, but just know it's going to eat up a lot of your usage at one time. So, so five tasks. It's really great at letter writing, reading long documents, multi-step reasoning, and summarizing. So let's get into it. So I did this the other day. So this is, may not be the weather today, but I said, what is the weather like in Dubai today? And see, I have it on Opus. Wasn't smart, but I wanted to show that to you. And it has it on this type of reasoning here. You can have adaptive, extended, whatever you have, and then it kind of spits this out. So it spit out this image. So then after it spits it out, so this is in my comments. So then over here, it shows up in my recent chat. I could pin it, so it'll show up over here. I could rename this, or I can add it to a project. So that is just a way to think about when you get some content back. And then, I can continue talking about it. I can add files to it, can add it to a project, add it to GitHub. This is more of a coding thing. Skills, we'll talk about that. Connectors, research web, and writing style. And that you activate all of that by clicking the plus sign. So here are the 8 features that matter a lot when it comes to Claude. So there are projects, which I use all the time, artifacts, which are super cool, then file uploads, web search, writing styles, skills, which this is something that ChatGPT has copied, but I'll show you a little bit of how that works. Connectors, that's what Mona's just asking about, where you can connect various items, and then plugins are like skills plus connectors with special agents attached to it. Let's start with projects. So projects is essentially it's a work group. It is a folder that you can create. And in the folder, you can have custom instructions, you can have documents, you can keep a thread. So ChatGPT has something very similar to this. So for example, say you have a project called Revenue Management Toolkit. You want to start a new conversation, and you type in there, draft this week's rate story for the GM. You already have your STR in the project files. It will read that STR file, it'll pull the set, it'll apply the brand voice, and it'll draft 3-paragraph summary. That's what a project will do for you once that's set up. So this is how you go ahead setting up a project. So you come over here, project, come then over here to new project, and then it asks you to name it and what you're trying to achieve. So I called it HSMAI demo, create a demo project. Then I clicked create project, and it creates this over here. That's the name of it. Here's the model. So it's on Sonnet. That's good. Here's where I can type context. Here's where I can add stuff. See here, this is that usage thing. That's why you got to worry about your tokens in terms of using the right thing, because you can max it out. Then it talks about the memory. Memory is what makes this technology so powerful, so you don't have to keep repeating yourself over and over again. It keeps the context of what you've had before in the project. So that's what makes sort of like that whole revenue management toolkit, which I talked about on the previous slide, so powerful because it knows exactly what you want. Here's the instructions of what you add. So this is exactly what you want it to do each time whenever someone comes with this project. And these are all the files that you upload. These could be source documents. These can be examples. These can be anything. And so for project instructions here, this is what I'm telling you. I want you to have be an AI strategist for marketing assistant for HSMAI, and this is how I want you to behave all the time. And then I hit save instructions. So I have saved those instructions over here. I've uploaded a couple of documents and now I can go ahead and type questions. And I can interact with it. But it's got this thing over here, start and down here you can see previous questions I have. So I can go back to the previous questions, or it's got this thing over here that says start task and co-work. So I'm like, that is interesting. I'm in chat and I've got this stuff, but I wonder what will happen if I click that. So I click,
Your voice of God is being ignored. I raised my hand because I have a
oh,
question
sorry.
for you. The
Oh, go
one of
ahead.
the one of the audience is asking, is what we're going through now is the paid version or the free version? I
Paid
guess
version. I'm given
paid
paid
version.
version.
Yeah. So with the minimum of the pro level.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Okay. Celine, I hope we answered your question.
so I'm gonna click start task in cowork and it opens this up. Says create a new task from the console. What it will do is it'll remember the files from the project, the sources, and then I hit create task, and then I'm like, all right. And it moved me over to cowork. So it took me out of chat and put in cowork and actually put me into actually another cohort project I was working on, where I'm doing a cohort with another group of people building agents in Claude, but it just stuck me in there and says create a slide on. So I wrote here, create a new slide for me for the presentation. Talk about creating a task in cowork from Claude's chat project because that's exactly what we're doing. So then it starts thinking about it and so what it does is it starts being very interactive. Again, this is different than chat where it's reactive. It starts loading tools. So that's one of the things that this is an agentic workflow now. Agents use tools, they work on goals. So the goal I gave it was I want you to create a new slide for me. So then it starts thinking about all the things it needs to do. Then it came back and he asked me some questions. He said, what deck should this new slide go into? I said, I want it to be standalone. What angle should I take? And I said, why it matters. And it said, okay, starts building. Now come over here. It looks at the instructions I had for the other sort of cowork, so that these aren't relevant, but it's using my skills. It's using my PowerPoint, my presentation skills, as well as PowerPoint skills. So it's going to add to it my sort of look and feel of what my presentations are going to look like in PowerPoint. So it starts working on it, and then it comes up and it says, all right, it goes and double checks it and then gives me a link. It says, okay, now you can view your slide. And then it gives me some tips. Says, because it's really smart and says it gives me some ideas of, is this going to be a good slide or not? It depends on the context. So then I click,
Michael,
yeah.
Michael. So keep an eye on my hand, Michael.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm
Uh,
looking over to the left. Just interrupt me.
Okay, okay. I'm fine doing that. Don't hate me. The fact that you said PowerPoint means that it does connect into Office 360, unlike your notebook, right? It
Uh,
can connect to Microsoft.
yes, it can connect to Microsoft. So then I click view your slide, and this is what it created for me. It's using my look and feel, my brand colors. I kind of have these crazy shapes over here. And this is what it created just from uh, that prompt. But anyway, let's get back to chat. So now we're back in the world of chat, and we're going to go to artifacts over here. So what on earth is an artifact? So an artifact is what it does to basically create a like almost like a widget or a deliverable. So you think of it as it could build a calculator, it could build a proposal, it could build a dashboard, a document, landing page, and whatever you ask it to build, it builds, and then you can edit it, and then you can publish it with a shareable link. So it is, and I'll show you the options here. So you can create dashboards, you can create documents, it creates forms, landing pages, tables, diagrams. So for example, build me a one-page guest amenity comparison for our com set, blah, blah, blah. And it builds this table, and you can hit publish, and you can share that. While that's cool, that's not super cool, because we want super cool here. So then I come over here to artifacts. I click new artifact. And I'm like, what do I want to build? I'm like, oh, I want to build something from scratch. And so this is what I say to it. I want you to build me an ROI calculator for hotel owners considering AI automation inputs, their hourly rate, hours per week, number of weeks per year that they work. And here are the outputs. I want the annual costs. I want the estimated time. I want estimated savings and a simple ROI. That's all I want. And so this seems a little more complicated. I decided to use Opus. So I put this into the artifact, and then it starts working on the right-hand side. You can see that it starts coding. So I'm not doing any of that. I don't understand any of that. I have no idea what any of that is, but it starts doing that. And then it keeps going, and then it delivers for me this calculator. I'm like, oh, it looks pretty cool. And then I click publish, and then I see that. So let's share the link now in the chat. Is the link shared in the chat? And so this is what it looks like. So this is now what it created from that prompt. So I
Jean,
can change. Could change.
we need to send it to everyone, right?
Well, you can put it in the chat, but I'll just show them here right now. Let's say the hourly
Okay.
rate is $25 and they work 20 hours a week and number of years they work. You can see that the numbers are changing down below. See down here? All this changes based on what's being, and again, that is publishable and visible to everybody. So I was thinking it might be fun for us to build something together. So I brought it over here, and you guys have anything that you want to build, and I'll show you how easy it is. All I did was go to artifacts, come over here, and we can pick whatever we want.
Celestine wants to tell you something.
Yeah, I
JJ,
do. Can you build a survey asking all the participants uh, what masterclass they want next?
Sure. So I click quiz or survey, and then it's gonna let me make this a little bigger. So okay, so here I'll say one master class. Whoops, I should spell that right. Although it'll catch all my survey for HSMI MIA. Um, requested upcoming classes. 2 is HSNI MIA audience, hoteliers. And 3, I don't know, we want it to be quick and punchy. So that's all I'm doing, right? And I click go. It might ask me additional follow-up questions. It might not. And so I'm using Opus here. Oh. So it's coming up automatically with its structure, the tone, the output, and it always asks me two questions. I said, I'm gonna say it looks good. So it's gonna finish out. And it's building, it's still thinking along. It's coding it. I'm not going to interrupt it till it's done here.
Well, we know what the next master class is. We also have something on F&B revenue as a continuation planned. We also have a session on GEO because that's very relevant now to the marketing community. So that's also planned. So it would be amazing to learn more about what topics our community wants to skill or upskill.
Right.
So this will come handy, Michael. Thank you. Thank you,
Yeah.
Jerastine.
Yeah. And as soon as it's done, it should be done here in a second. Um, let's just give it another moment before I continue on. There it is. So here it is. I'm gonna publish it. Click in publish. It's gonna say anyone in the web. So it's gonna give me a link. So copy link. And I'm gonna put this in the little chat here. So that's what got created. Anyway, so that's and then the results will all be captured here. So there we go. Anyway, so that's that. All right. So interesting? I think so. All right, now let's get to the next thing about file uploads. Over here, you click the plus sign, and then you can add files here. And types of files you can add PDFs, spreadsheets, images, Word docs. For some reason, I've tried to add PowerPoints, and I wasn't super successful with that. So, but it can read PowerPoints. I know it can do that. So let's go to web search. So one of the things about it also, you need to make sure if you want web search activated, you have to make sure it's clicked here. And when you're asking it a question and you think it needs the web, you say, use web search to look for this. Sometimes it's not smart enough to go, it might say it doesn't know. You say, well, check the web. And they're like, oh, yeah, you're right. I should have checked the web. So you make sure it's turned on. Um, and then you also need to just remind it to use it. All right, so now let us go to writings. We're going to go to writing styles. So we want to click one, use style, and here are the different writing styles that it has. It defaults to normal, but you can change different styles, or you have this one down here called 5, which is create and edit a style. So let's click that one. And we do that. It says, okay, let's add your writing style. You can upload it, you can paste context, or you can have it describe it. So I thought, oh, okay, let's see what happens if I ask it to describe it. So then it gives you more choices. Again, this is why the writing of Claude is so good because it really learns you and learns to write exactly like you. And there are a lot of different ways that it tries to learn how to write like you. And then it generates the style, and then the style gets added. So you can, from now on, after you learn the voice, you just apply that style and it matches your voice going forward. But one of the things that is super powerful about Claude, one of the things that really it did before ChatGPT did is these things called skills. Skills are ways of it's sort of like a prompt on steroids. It can be as simple as just a remembered prompt that it just has, but it also can be a prompt that, if you want to think about it, that's internally, that can reference all sorts of different type of documentation, subdirectories, and even scripts. So what does this look like to kind of get to it so I can explain a little bit further? So you come over here to customize and you create new skills. So the anatomy of skill is it has a name, a description, and then sort of like what it is. The name is important, but the most important part is really the description because this is what gets triggered and this is what it looks for in terms of context. So if you're writing something, it'll pull it up automatically. So a skill is really special because you don't have to think, oh, what skills do I need to kind of add manually? If you write the script, if you write the description in such a way, and when you're doing some work, it'll just pull it up automatically. So let me show you a little bit more about what I mean about that. So let's first kind of create a skill together. So come over here, create a skill, and you have different ways to create skills. You can create with Claude, you can write, you can upload a skill. So I'm like, okay, let's create a skill with Claude, and that's what it shows up. So we're building it together, and then it has its own skill, which is called a skill creator skill. So to create a skill, it looks at how to create skills. So it's a skill for a skill. So it does this automatically. It pulls it up. So then it and asks me, all right, this is great. What should the skill do? So I said, I want you to create a skill of a high-end luxury hotel marketing manager. They should always write brand standards. The goal is any context is taken, whether it's for a landing page or blog, social media, LinkedIn, press releases, should always follow brand standards that has a consistent look, feel, and tone. All right, so that's what I figured. So then it came back to me and asked me a bunch of questions. So then whenever I answer the question, I always put the number so it's not confused as to what ties it. I'm like, okay, I want it to be a fictional property. I want, brand standards embedded in the skill, but it didn't have to be embedded. It could have been in a subdirectory. Uh, and let's see, look and feel, I want it just be text. It wanted to follow examples, I said follow them on. And what's the primary use case? I said I'm helping a specific property. All right, so then it starts to go ahead and starts to create it and gives me some additional follow-up questions. It says, what should the name be? I said, okay, you propose the name. And then it asked me about channel priority. I say, okay, predominantly social. Then it said, described what the Mon's voice was. I said, that was perfect. And then hard prohibitions, I said, never use superlatives or any word that means, or words that mean luxury. We should always convey luxury. All right, so that was it. And then it said, ask me further questions again, because this is building the skill. So I called it the Tenera guest. Who's arriving there? I said they saved their money all year for this vacation. Content pillars. So I'm like, this is perfect. Social register, it kind of gave me examples of different qualities. I'm like, let's go lean. So then it starts creating the skill, and this is the skill that it created. Always a skill.md. .md means markdown file. And just so you know, if you ever see something that says .md, AI loves markdown files. So it's easiest for it to read. So here it is. It gave me the name. Here's the property, the voice, the core principles, the content pillars. And here's the description again. So here's the name of it. Here's the description about what will trigger it. And then this is information about the property, the voice, and the core principles, the content pillar. I'm like, oh, this is great. This is interesting. So then it gets loaded up in my skills. So everyone in Claude, they have a whole skills directory. So this gets loaded in there automatically. So now it's sitting there with all my other skills, just waiting for me to type something. So I'm like, okay, I'm going to type. Right now, it's loaded. So I'm writing a new landing page for Tenera. Can you guide me through the steps? And then automatically over here, this is what we're doing it all about. It starts reading the brand voice skill. And so then it's going to give me all the guiding. So I just load that skill once and oh, there's a question for Laurent. I just saw that. You're on mute.
Yeah, I'm lost between chats and questions. No, I don't see a question from Laurent. I see a question from Ed. He says you need to save the PowerPoint. Um, for all those that are asking about the recording of the session, yes, it is recorded, and you will get a copy of the presentation as well as the recording of the session after today. So that's one. Jean, can you bring Laurent in? Hi, Laurent. Good to see you. Activate Laurent and camera.
His in.
Hi, Laurent. Laurent, go ahead and ask your question. Okay, he will come at some
All
point.
right. All right.
There is
Hi,
Manas. No, let's get
yeah.
Manas in.
Hi, Mike.
Hi.
Quick one on differentiating the skills from ChatGPT to Claude. How would we differentiate that? And
They're essentially the same. They're very similar. It's the same. Like if you create skills in Claude, you can copy them into skills. They might be stored a little bit differently, but it's the same concept.
But
okay,
skills
so
is re
which,
sorry. Sorry, Manas.
yeah, so skills would be saved as custom instruction for a particular task inside your workspace of Claude, right? Or whether in ChatGPT.
Skills are saved exactly where I just showed you. Um,
Mhm.
they're over here. They have their own sort of, let's see if I can back it up a little bit more. They live in a skills directory. So they're separate entity. Let's see if I can, there it is,
Okay.
skills. So you come to under customize and settings, skills, and this is all the skills that you have loaded.
And really, skills is what would help Claude understand what voice you're talking with. So internal, formal, executive, legal
It
driven,
it's
the way you
even
structure it.
it's even more than that. I mean, that's the top level, but then just think about workflows. Say you have a particular type of workflow, you can have a skill for the different steps and it follows it sequentially and it pulls
Mm,
it in.
mm,
Um,
mm. There is a question from the audience. Maybe you can address it towards the end. How can you migrate your content and projects from ChatGPT to Claude?
uh,
Um,
I have a thing at the end on how to move memory over,
mhm.
but otherwise, I haven't seen anything about moving project from one spot to the next spot. I think those have to be recreated, but you can pull in memory.
Okay, maybe towards the end you can answer it.
Yeah, and I realize I'm like halfway, well, a little more than halfway through, and we only have like 10 minutes left. So well, we'll keep going through whatever, and
Yeah.
we'll get as much done as we can. All right, so skills versus prompts. So whether it's a one-off task, use a prompt. If it's recurring, create a skill. They're great for consistency. You can share them, and it holds the format. So let's talk about connectors. Connectors are sort of like we were talking about before. You can connect your calendar, your mail, Slack, and Drive. So it can read, write, and access it. Whatever you really want it to do, you can, and each one has various permissions based on what it is. You can give it permission to do it. So here you have connectors. Come over here, connect your apps. And so if I type in Microsoft, you can see these different things that Microsoft has as connectors. And then it asks you if you're an organization, the admin has to allow you to do it. If you want to add your Gmail, you just can connect Gmail if it's your personal Gmail. And then you can see your list of connectors right over here, everything that's connected. Now, one of the things that Mona asked earlier about is permissions. So you can give everything that's connected read, create, edit, send, delete, or admin privileges. So based on what it is, you can control how it can manipulate the data. So for example, here on Google Calendar, you have always, sometimes, never, and you can come in here and you pick for the calendar what you want it to be able to do. So for example, I have my calendar connected, said, what events do I have next Wednesday? And it went through my calendar and said, oh, here's what you have from 6 to 9, you have this, 7:30 to 9, this, 11 to this. So it just kind of told me, it was able to read my calendar and then just answer questions based on my calendar. But I don't think I gave it write access to my calendar or delete, so it can only read it. So, and depending on your company, if you have access to your calendar and it can see other people's free busy, it can kind of go ahead and help schedule time. Plugins. Plugins are essentially, I'll go through them. Plugins are basically pre-existing uh, applications sort of thing about. They're a connector, a skill, and some maybe code that are connected together. So it's skills, it's got commands, may even have agents, and these are things that you can pick, and then you can call them through a slash command. That in the Claude, everything kind of has a slash command for shortcuts. So, but I'll keep going through the next one because I think that's a little confusing. Then memory, and this is one of the things you guys were asking about. There's lots of different type of memory. There's memory of who you are, memory of what you're talking about. There's project memory, and then there's reference memory. So here it can remember who you are. Feedback, it might remember some of your preferences. And if you have memory set in a project, it'll know everything in that project. And then you can even give it a memory in terms of reference, in terms of looking at directories. Now, the question that was asked earlier about ChatGPT is you can go to memory and you can start import memory. So you can say that because you feel like ChatGPT knows you really well. And that's one of the reasons why people don't want to leave it. How can you get Claude to know you as well as ChatGPT? Well, you have to import the memory of how ChatGPT knows about you. So if you click over here, start import, and you click, it gives you copy this prompt into your other provider. You copy it. This is what it gives it. And then so you take this and then whatever results you get, you paste right into here, and then you click add memory, and that is how it starts to learn all about you. All right, I'm gonna flick through code design because we're gonna go to the next part, which is just touch co-work and touch code. So co-work is essentially like chat, but what you do is you give it access to a directory and you can talk to it based on what's going on in the directory. So over here, here's cowork. So this was chat. This is cowork. I give it access to a directory and it looks very similar to what we were just doing, but you have in cowork, you have projects, you have schedule, you have something called live artifacts. Dispatch will allows you to interact with it remotely, and then you can add your skills and such right there. And then Claude Code. Claude Code is essentially allows you to just start writing programs directly in the interface. So here you click Claude Code and it shows you routines. This is stuff that is automated. Here's where you can create your skills. And so this is what I see, and it's my local. Right now I'm working with a hotel cohort group about learning how to create local news agents that look about what's going on in the local area. So I have it pointed at that directory, and then you can start asking it to build something, and then it'll just start to build it. And that's pretty much it. If you anything you can imagine, you say here, build me a application about you're only limited by your imagination. Anything that you think that can be coded can be coded. Just take that as a starting point. And you start in plan mode always, and you go from there. But we'll talk about that more next time. limits
Mi-
of chat.
Michael,
So
Michael, sorry to interrupt you. Two questions from the audience, please. We're running as usual, short of time. I would like to check if the program can be used for marketing campaigns.
yeah, yeah. I have you just have to put it up on the web via Cloudflare, and it can be accessible anywhere. I've built a number of applications that are just out there. So you just have to kind of spend time to play with it and learn it. So let's say a marketing campaign, for example, is well, here's what I'm doing with this cohort here in the United States. They say they're a bunch of hotel owners. They want to know what's going in their local area, so they want an agent that looks at the local news. They want to pick all the relevant things that are interesting activities, take that, write it, read it, pull out interesting quotes, and then write a blog post, and then have that set to go, emailed to them, and ready to be posted to wherever. So we create four different agents from that. But that's something you can do. There's a question from Bob.
Yes. Can you tell? Ah, Bob is there already. Yes, Bob, go ahead.
First of all, Michael, thank you very much for this very interesting webinar. My question is about tokens. Can you tell us a little bit more about what they are? If tokens is the same platform to platform, where you can see how many you have, where you can see kind of usage behavior, and how the amount of tokens for the basic subscription, paid subscription for ChatGPT compares to a basic subscription of Claude.
Oh, so I am not sure in terms of like the token amount based on the levels, one versus the other. But you can track how many tokens you're using by there are different slash commands in terms of understanding your token usage. So it's looking exactly at where you are, but there's also in Claude, it kind of shows you exactly how much you're using it. And different models use different amount of usage. So Haiku uses the least, Sonnet uses a little bit more, and Opus like sucks it dry. So again, it depends on what you're coding. So when you code, for example, you should plan it with Opus, but build with Sonnet, and then the sort of the best practice there. I don't know if that
Yeah,
answers your question.
yeah. But where can I see like how many tokens I've left and things like that? Because while you were talking as well, I thought the project thing was interesting because I am on ChatGPT, not in Claude, but I started a Claude account before this webinar, and I started a project, and I'm busy with a reservations training project with new SOPs that I have. So I saw that I could add files to the memory, and I had about maybe 50 files that I added. I was able to add them. However, then when it said asked me a question, I said, "Okay, help me prepare a training program for my reservations agents." And it stopped. It didn't give me an answer. It said, "You can ask another question at 9 p.m. tonight."
Yeah, that's the usage. Those are the usage limits. So that's it. Yeah, so what you can do is there's a number of different things. There's what it's doing also, it's reading everything. So there are lots of different techniques where you want to either clear the context periodically so it doesn't read as much. You want to change the models. But the other thing is like I found as you start to use it and use it more and more, you actually end up paying for more usage because you see how useful it is, but you get throttled. Everyone gets it's the most frustrating thing. It just automatic just stops. So you have to learn about it. There are ways to look at there's a slash command called status line where you can kind of start to see how much usage you're using as it's going along, or you can just do I think slash usage, or you can go through settings and look at usage. But yeah, use it depending on what you're asking to do, it could take a lot of tokens.
Yeah, well,
Um,
there is a reason why this is a multi-billion-dollar industry, right?
oh yeah,
They get you hooked, and now we can't live without it.
yeah, and there we go. And that's there we go. Stop sharing. So that's the show.
Perfect,
So
Michael. Thank you very much for today. I think this is part number one. We have the feedback slide. Maybe we will share it with everyone post this session. But if for those that are still with us, and there's quite a few of you, we would love to hear your feedback. Were we too fast, too slow, too much content in one masterclass? Remember, this is for all of us to skill or upskill. And with that said, I would say, Michael, thank you very much. We will share the registration link for part two so we can go in more details. And for our audience, we will share today's recording and copy for you to even prepare some questions for next time. Now we have a whole week to go on the Claude application and trial it for ourselves. Yeah. So would love to have your feedback. So 2 minutes. It's exactly 2 minutes. So please scan and share your input.
and I know it was a lot, and I know some of the concepts were a lot, and I know I needed to get through. I wanted to get through all the chat stuff, so I hope it wasn't overwhelming to people, but I wanted to kind of be more of a survey as to what it is. For some of the people that are familiar with ChatGPT, some of it might have felt redundant, but it's the most important, I think, takeaways really are skills, understanding the skills and thinking about how you want to leverage the skills, thinking about how you want to use the connectors, and then um,
The
and the art
plugins
start
are quite useful.
the what?
The plugins,
The plugins, yeah.
the finance and the different categories that they have them in, it's quite interesting. I've been
Yeah.
playing around with it, trying to understand it. See, we have some nice Hauser music. It's our relaxing background. Anastasia, pleasure that you like it. Really, thank you all for the nice notes. Michael, for next session, can we, because we may end up with some new joiners that were not with us today, can we just start the session with like a high level without going into details, just a definition of what each one is that we covered, and then we go
Yeah.
into the details of code. Can you
A
just add
hundred.
that to the content, please?
Oh, 100%. The
Perfect.
yeah, and it's yeah, and based on whatever the feedback is, I can go back and visit whatever needs to be revisited as well.
Perfect. Thank you, Michael. Oops, sorry, Mazen. I didn't see your hand being raised. Keep your hand up till next session. And we will start with your question the first next time. Sorry, Mazen. I missed it. Your voice of God is not acting well.
Um, how do you guys find it?
I personally love it. I've been wanting every weekend, I say I'm going to spend a good 5 hours just going around, but I don't. Every day I'm trialing something new. It's very different to ChatGPT, huh?